Hello friends, welcome. My name is Chris. I'm the owner of Houndsong Games and I developed this free tabletop gaming system called Relict RPG. And I wanted to talk to you about how to build your first character within it. So when you go to the homepage, it's relictrpg.com. Here's what you're going to see. Everything we need to access is right here. As I said, this game is completely free. The entire thing lives on the website here. If you would like to support me, because this is not free for me to do, I do have a Patreon and some shops and some other stuff. You can access all of that down here through Support Relict. Much appreciated. But let's get you into your first game. First thing you're going to want to do is go to downloads and character sheets right here. You can also get to this from downloads up here. That's going to bring us to this page where we have our standard player packet. This is the experimental version that kind of does some of the math for you as you plug in your numbers. I'm going to be using that one. It's got a little bit of jank to it. If you just want to print one out, this is the one you go to and you just print it and fill it out by hand. Pretty old school, pretty traditional. Harder to mess up. Down here we've got some quick reference stuff if you're the game master, just a little cheat sheet with a bunch of key rules on it, so that's helpful. And then if you don't want to do the rest of this, you just want to jump into a game with your friends as fast as possible, I've got a growing list of pre-made characters here that you are welcome to take as a starting place or just play as is. This will continue to be added to as I develop the system and have time. I am a one-man company, so I just simply can't do everything all at once. So some things just grow over time, and if you check back on the website fairly frequently, you'll see more things added basically every couple of days. Back to our homepage here. If you don't want to watch through this video, if you prefer to do the things yourself and just follow a checklist and hearing someone explain it to you is difficult, you can go to the step-by-step guide right here. That'll bring you to the character creation guide. If you follow all of the check marks on this page, you will wind up with a character at the end of it that is complete and ready to go. In fact, this is what I'm going to be referencing off on my other monitor here to make sure I don't miss any steps. The first thing we're going to do is select a species to play as. There are a lot of them. Relict is designed as an overall system, so if you want to play in your world, this is a story of dwarves and elves and humans, you know, taking the magic ring to the magic volcano, you are welcome to restrict your list however suits the game and setting that you wish to do. My goal is to provide a full-featured system that can adapt to any kind of setting you can imagine, so there's a lot of options for character species and character classes and that kind of thing. It's up to you and your table and your GM to narrow that down if you see fit. If you're welcoming everything, then fantastic. We aim to please. So I'm going to go to playable species right here. This is going to bring me to the overall list. You're going to see not all of the artwork is done. Again, I'm a one-man company and I'm doing all of the artwork myself, which takes a lot of time. But all of these species are done and ready to play. So let's go ahead, and I've already kind of got an idea in mind for this character. I'm going to play as an orc because I think they're neat. They get this fun ability that lets them, you know, once per day at level 1 do something that gives them just a mighty moment to succeed on something they might have failed at or remove some injury or damage. We have some basic stats here. We have our speed, our size. They can be either medium or large size creatures. There's pros and cons to being a larger creature. You get a bigger radius of effect for different things, but also occasionally run into more obstacles and squeezing into tight areas, and possibly a bigger target for area of effect things. So there's trade-offs. The ether, this specific thing you don't need to worry about too much. For most of the things in the game, it's a very specific deal that comes up once in a while. If you're in like an anti-magic field or something, the ether rule comes into play. Your GM can worry about all that. For your purposes, it gives you +1 mana regeneration when you build your character. Excellent. Some have another one that gives you +1 mana capacity instead. That's all you gotta worry about there. And then I've got a little bit of dark vision, which is great. So I'm gonna be an orc, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my character sheet. Here we are. I've decided to name my orc Mr. Exemple for reasons that you are welcome to decipher on your own. I believe in you. My species is orc. My character level is 1. If you're using the autofill sheet, make sure you fill this in, because as I increase my character level, it'll update numbers, because some things are based on what level you are, so that's helpful. I am a medium-sized creature, I decided. I've already got my ether thing in there, and I've already got my dark vision filled in. So my dark vision, yes, I go up to 120 feet. Excellent. I get +1 mana regeneration. Very quickly, I'll cover in detail mana and stamina in another video sometime, more about the rules and like the action economy in this. You have two things, mana capacity and mana regeneration, for example. if I have a capacity of 10 or 11, that's how big my battery is. I can spend up to 11 mana during a turn and decrease it as I cast spells. At the start of my turn, if my regeneration is 7, I'll get 7 back. So I can have up to 11, spend all that, get 7 back each turn on top of whatever I have left over. So that's kind of how the resource management works. It's the same thing for stamina. Stamina is for physical abilities like attacks, martial abilities, sprinting, whatever. Mana is for casting spells. We get our +1 regeneration for being an orc. Excellent. Now, the next thing we're going to do is pick our classes. Relict is designed as a multi-class system because I like making weird character combinations. We've done some math, and right now with the classes that are available in the game already, there's about 1,700 possible distinctly different characters that would result from and like play differently, resulting just from the classes we already have combined in different ways, which means that you could play a different Relict character every month for the rest of your life and not run out, which is pretty cool. I think it works out to like 150, 140 years, something like that. I'm not great at math, but whatever. When all of the classes are done, there'll be something more along the lines of 4,000 or 5,000 possible combinations. I did not do this math myself. I used a calculator that let me plug in the variables and gave me the results because I can't do that. But anyways, I just think that's neat. I went ahead and decided what I wanted to do for Mr. Example here, and we're going to look at our character classes. You'll see the classes are divided up into martial, mage, and hybrids. Again, not probably going to shock you too much, but martial classes use stamina to do physical things, mage classes use mana to cast spells, and hybrids do a bit of both. That's what the difference is. You can be any combination herein. There's no wrong answers. Each class is designed to be like half of a character and kind of work independently with whatever kind of combination you make. So if you want to be a warrior mage, or if you want to be a double mage, or like a medic sniper or something like that, any of these are viable. It's possible to min-max and like really hone in on like what's going to be the most optimum if you enjoy that kind of thing, but you're not really in any danger of accidentally making a useless character. All of them can kind of stand on their own. So keep that in mind, and just I would advise go for what kind of character you think is the coolest and do that. For me, I've already filled it in, you can see here, but I'm going to be a warrior and a sorcerer, and I'm going to have a little bit of Blink Mage in there. Blink Mage is one of my favorites, especially as a secondary or something, because it just lets you teleport all over the place and do weird like space and time stuff, which is really cool. We've had a couple in our playtesters, and they're having an absolute blast with them, and they're always fun to GM. I've got one frontline Blink Mage who keeps Super Mario crushing all of my little zombies and skeletons, and it's just a ton of fun. Now, you'll see that each class has a primary stat, a secondary stat, and a toughness score. I'm going to go ahead, these little buttons are just for convenience to jot that down. It's going to boost some of our stats here in a moment. So for the warrior, it's might and fortitude. My toughness is 6, and that goes right over here. For the Blink Mage, it's fortitude and cleverness. They also have a casting type because they're a mage. They're verbal, which goes right here. Warrior gets none. And then for our sorcerer, which is further down here, cleverness and willpower. So cleverness, willpower, and somatic spells. Done. Toughness 2. Simple enough. You could be a character that chooses to only do 2 classes. That's perfectly fine, in which case you won't have this third one, and that's going to be a generalist. And so this will all be blanked off, and you get an extra 2 perks to select at level 1, and you get some minor stat buffs as you level up to sort of keep pace with everybody else. That's covered in the character creation checklist page that I've got over here. You can see if you scroll down, this is an influence class. This is a generalist. So this is what you get for that, and this is what you get for that. So if you ever need to reference it, that's where it is. So really quickly, I'm not going to focus too much on the math behind individual character abilities and everything in this video, because it's sort of too into the weeds for just filling out the character sheet. But major class, minor class, and influence class, what order you put your class selection in makes a difference in how your character plays. Your major class is your primary thing. It's what you're best at. It's what you do most easily. Your minor class is still accessible, but it's not necessarily, unless you choose to do some level up stuff that focuses on it, not necessarily the easiest thing to do every single turn. Influence class comes in a pinch once in a while. Those abilities tend to be fairly expensive for stamina and mana, but you can still tap into the cheaper ones or specifically save up for a turn or two and focus on some of the more expensive ones, so you still have access to those abilities just a little less easily. The way that works is that for your minor class, all of the costs double for mana and stamina, so your spells, if you have a spell that costs 2 for a major class, it costs 4 for a minor class, and then for your influence class, it costs 4. For cheap spells, that's still pretty accessible. If a spell costs 2 and now it costs 8, I can still do that at a low level. If it costs 10 to start with, that gets out of range pretty quickly. There are choices you can make when you level up to pick one from one of these other classes to remove that multiplier. So if you're a warrior who really likes the flaming sword ability from one of your mage classes, you can say, you know what, level 4, that's going to be just the base cost now, and I'm never going to have to worry about that again. That's how you get better at these hybrid classes as you go. That also means that a warrior sorcerer plays very differently than a sorcerer warrior. So just keep that in mind and assign your classes accordingly. And that's all written down on the checklist page if you want to kind of read through it and pick it apart piece by piece. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we get some stat buffs after our selections here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is pull up the checklist page again, just because it's written out there and it makes it a lot clearer to see on the screen. So just to bring us up to speed here, we've chosen a species, that's done. We've chosen our classes, that's done. Fantastic. We've recorded our toughness score. Those go in these boxes over here. It fills out this little bracket up here. Great. Now we get some core stat bonuses. That's these: our might, our precision, our cleverness, our knowledge, our willpower, our fortitude. And you can read mechanically what these do and what kind of checks they factor into right underneath them here. That's also explained more in the rules section on the website. But we get a buff to them based on the classes we've selected. So for our major class, we can either add 3 to our primary stat and 1 to our secondary, or 2 and 2. For the warrior, we said that was might and fortitude. I'm going to do the 2 and 2. So let's do 2 and 2. Done. And you'll see some numbers are starting to update and populate here. For our minor class, we can either do 1 to both or 2 to one of them. Minor class was cleverness and willpower. I think I'm going to go ahead and just do the 1 to 1. I like to spread things out a little bit, balance. In our influence class, you can just do 1 to either of them. So that's going to be fortitude and cleverness. And I think fortitude is going to be helpful because that is going to increase our mana capacity a little bit. Now, we get stamina and mana bonuses based on what kind of classes we selected. Remember, warrior is a martial class. Sorcerer and Blink Mage are both mage classes. That was in the main pages for all of those and on the overall class list. So for a martial major class, we get 2 stamina capacity. That goes right here. And for minor and influence mage classes, we get 1 mana capacity. So those are going to go right here. 1 and 1 oftentimes makes 2. So there we are. Next thing we're going to do is we've got 8 points to divvy up as we see fit amongst the core stats here. This has got 7 total, I believe. So that's 3 and 4. So for a 3-class character, that means that the total should be 15. That's how we're going to gut check this. I'm going to go ahead and do an extra 3 to my might. So that brings me up to 5 there because this is a fighting class. I'm going to do a couple to precision. That's going to improve my armor and my ranged weapon attacks for those times where I can't get in close and start doing that kind of thing. I want to think about my sorcerer abilities a little bit, because cleverness and willpower are going to come into some of my attack bonuses and everything. So let's go ahead and do another 2 to our cleverness. We'll bring that up to 3, so I'm at 7. I've got 1 more to spend. We're going to keep knowledge at 0 right now. That's just not what I'm about. And we're going to add another 1 to our fortitude here. Well, actually, no. Let's do our willpower so we get a little bit more regeneration. Putting those in, that should add up to 15. That's 5. That's 5. That's 5. That's 15. Huzzah. And then that will update our stamina and mana numbers here, which is great. So we've got a 8 capacity of stamina, capacity 8 of 8. And then we've got our 7 right here, 0 in the buffs column for now. Capacity, we've got 6 of 6 mana. And we've got 5 regeneration. So a nice balanced character here. It's possible that we could outspend our regeneration a little bit at level 1. but not too bad. So that means we're going to stay in the fight pretty well here. Just real quick, as you level up, a lot of these numbers go up automatically. So if I put level 5 here, you'll see my stamina and mana jump, and also some of my toughness numbers jump. That plays into how you take damage and what your chances of getting like broken bones and ruptured organs and all sorts of nasty stuff. We'll cover that more in the core rules section. We're not going to worry about it too much for this video. Okay, next thing we want to do is calculate out our numbers here. Our warrior does not have a spell, attack, or anything, so those are all going to stay 0. Our sorcerer is, remember, cleverness and willpower. So cleverness, what's our primary cleverness stat here? 3. That's our spell attack for sorcerer spells, and it's going to be 3 plus willpower is 2, and that is our spell save target for if we force someone to do something with our sorcerer spells. That's what the number they've got to beat. Blink Mage is Fortitude Cleverness. I don't actually think Blink Mage uses a spell attack too often, but that's okay. There's a couple of things where that might come in. And then Fortitude Cleverness is 3 and 3. They definitely do the save thing a couple of times, so that's nice. Huzzah. Alright, so we've got all that filled out. You'll notice that some other numbers updated here. Here's my melee weapon attack bonus. It's 1d12 plus 5 for my might. Range attacks are 1d12 plus 2 for my precision. Now, we're going to grab our class features and move on, and we'll be ready to play here. Alright, so let's go. Characters, character classes. As you can see, this is all of the classes that are available in the current build of the game whenever you're watching this. These are all the ones that are still coming, so it's only going to expand further. Let's go to Warrior. Here we are. You get the level 1 features for your class, whether or not it's a major class, minor class, or influence. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and just put a little note right here. So I have that. Great. I'm not going to get into the specific details of each one too much. I'm just going to show you how to fill out the sheet. But you do get those level 1 features. Some of them are quite helpful. Easiest way to do this, by the way, is there are reference sheets for some of the classes, more coming as I finish them. You can see Warrior Major Class. That'll give you this file right here, has all this information already. Here's all your class skills, here's all your level up options, here's all your level 1 features. So if you don't want to fill in the rest of this by hand, just grab this, print it out, stick it with your character sheet. It's done. Again, that will be available for every class as soon as I'm able to get them up for every class, but they're on most of them right now. Okay, here's all your class skills. Sprinting, reflexes, battering attacks, whatever. Specializations are what we worry about when we level up. But at level 1, I do get a couple of weapon and armor perks. So your warrior can kind of just have the training that you want him to have. I'm just going to stick that right here again. And then you could fill in your choices there. There's a link right there. Here's what it's talking about. So it could be medium weapons, bows, armor, shields, whatever. For example, when I level up to level 2, choose one, I can increase my stamina regeneration. I can gain another perk. Level 3, I get one of these warrior-specific abilities to improve some aspect of how my warrior plays. Level 4, etc., etc., etc. At certain levels, you get this one, which lets you remove that cost multiplier from your minor or influence class abilities if you choose that. Otherwise, you could just take a perk. But that's how you kind of access some of those higher cost spells or abilities from your other classes that are just out of reach. You can bring them back down like they're part of your major class. But that's our level 1 choices right there. It's there. It's the level 1 in your standard, in your specializations. Excellent. Only worry about specializations for your major class. Minor class and influence class, it's not a factor. So that was the most complicated part of working with these classes right here. Let's go ahead and jump over to classes. Sorcerer. I get these 2 features at level 1. This is a critical effect. We'll talk about critical stuff in another video, but basically if I hit a crit with a spell, I can do that, and then this is an ability I get for all of my spells, whether they're sorcerer or not, just for being a sorcerer at all. I'm going to stick that right here. Excellent. And I think I said this before, but if I'm playing digitally, these little post-it notes are easy for me to just kind of like, okay, and maybe I'll put a little reminder in one of these boxes. But it's just an easy way to put a big block of text in a 1-page sheet. If I'm playing physically, I'll usually print it out and just put a little note to myself and then maybe write the whole thing out on the back if I don't want to have the website open on a phone or a tablet or whatever. So that's how I do it. You can do whatever's comfortable for you. And again, the sorcerer, if you don't want to do any of that, also has one of these reference sheets. And if I hit the minor class one, it only gives me the stuff that matters to a minor class sorcerer. You'll notice there's no specializations here because this is the minor class. Or if I go to the major class one, this is everything if I level up as a sorcerer, etc., etc., etc. And the other thing this does is that on this reference sheet, all of the math is already done. So all of the cost multipliers are finished. You don't have to do extra math on top of it. Everything's already filled out on this page. So you can just throw this in your character packet and you don't have to like do head math and calculations and whatever. You just go, oh, yep, cast that for this much, done. Here's all your abilities. Here's your specializations, only if you're major class. We're not, so we're never gonna go down there. Just your abilities, done. And then finally, we will go over to our blink mage, and we just get this feature at level 1. And this is actually, for blink mage, just choosing what kind of disruption your teleporting makes. So you can even just write down your actual choice there. There's no other mechanical impact. It's just, you make a noise, or it's a flash of light, or something. Anyways, here's our blink mage abilities, specializations that we're not going to look at, and reference sheets. We can grab your influence one and not have to do any of that. We have completed all of the stats and class selection stuff for building our character. Great. Let's get some equipment on here and we will be done. So if you go to the character creation page, this one, there is a little guide down at the very bottom of the page for like what kind of equipment you can select at what level you're starting at. I am working on incorporating this more into the classes themselves. So each class will have like, pick a sword or a shield, pick a bow or a dagger. Something more like that. But for now, if you want to just use this is a fine guide. It'll effectively be the same thing. I'm just trying to streamline the process a little bit more so you don't have to jump around as much. Effectively, what this works out to is pick a melee and a ranged weapon that you have the training for or does not require training. And then pick some armor that isn't crazy expensive, that either doesn't require training or you have training in already as part of your perks and level 1 stuff. You get some basic adventurer gear to just add to your inventory sheet, which is down here. I think it's the 4th page in the full packet. Yeah, so here's your inventory sheet. You can record extra notes and stuff here as you see fit. We can put our armor and everything in here. Here's our backpack, weapons, etc. Gear and consumables, and some currency, so that's great. So, real quick, we'll just glance at the armor and weapons pages and make some simple selections here. Weapons are divided into small, medium, large, giant. So here's all our small weapons. Here's all of our medium melee weapons. Let's say that our orc fellow decides he's going to use an axe. I love an axe. We're going to go ahead and just jot down axe stats right here. Yeah, see, that doesn't work very well in PDFs yet, so working on that. But boom, there's our axe. And we'll grab a ranged weapon. Let's say he's got... Yeah, I'm feeling a crossbow. And for armor, let's see, warrior, I believe, gets some heavy armor, if I'm not mistaken. I should double check that. Again, clothing, protective clothing. These really only affect, like, assassin-type classes that don't use armor. Down here we've got light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, shields. Let's do for a warrior, I think chainmail is a great call. That's going to be a +6 armor, -2 to hiding, so not a stealthy character. That's okay. And some of these other little effects here, so like it reduces slashing damage, so we can make notes on all that. I've got 6 for equipment. Here's my armor section. Precision gives me up to 3, Fortitude gives me up to 3, so even if I was naked, I could potentially have up to 6. This character has 5, +6 for the chainmail I just equipped, so 5 + 6 is oftentimes 11. There we are. So I have an armor class of 11. Excellent. Okay, melee weapon, we said axe. It's got a 5-foot reach. Damage type was... slashing or bludgeoning, 1d6. Axes are fun because it lets you select slashing or bludgeoning. You can flip it around and hit them with the back of it. Critical effect comes in. I'm just going to put Sunder here. Critical effects are things that when you roll a crit with that object, you can choose whether or not to invoke that, or get a fate point or something else. So you can actually reduce creature's armor when you crit with an axe, which is fun. Then that adaptive thing is what lets you choose between slashing or bludgeoning. Ranged weapons, we said we've got a crossbow. Range is 75 without taking a long shot. Damage is 1d8. That is piercing damage. Critical effect does not have one. Special is reload 1. So that means after I use this weapon, it takes an action to reload it. Crossbows do more damage than regular bows, but have that reload property, so there's a trade-off there. Okay, we're done. That's it. We have created our first character in Relict, the noble warrior, witch, sorcerer example. A proud, noble orc with some decent armor and some hard-hitting weapons and abilities. Thank you for coming along on this journey here. As I said in the beginning, Relict is absolutely free. I've designed the website and the stats and the characters and everything, and done all the artwork myself. I'm still adding a lot to it. We started playtesting a couple of months ago. It's been an absolute blast. We're having a ton of fun with it. I hope you check it out. If you want to support me, you can go to the support page on Relict, and there's different ways to do it. We've got a Patreon, we've got a donations page, we've got, I say we, it's me, I'm just trying to support my family, Patreon donations page, we've got an Etsy store, so if you want to buy shirts and merch, and I've got some art prints and stuff on there. I also teach art classes. That's why I'm able to illustrate all of this kind of stuff. So there's links to all of that on there. I wrote a book. You could buy the book. Coming up in the next couple of months, we're going to have some Relict stuff. I can give you previews of that. We've got like mana and stamina trackers, little spin down dials, which are fun. We've got some really cool character reference cards, which we've been using in playtesting so far, and they're awesome. But these have kind of like the, spells and abilities and everything for your different classes. So you've got all that kind of stuff. These are earlier prototypes. They've improved even more since we did these. But these are fantastic. I'm extremely pleased with how these turned out. And those will be available at some point in the near future, hopefully, and maybe even at a game store near you. We've got a starter box coming out. Working on that as well. That'll have a lot of this information condensed into some booklets. It'll have a little GM screen. It'll have maybe some cards and some dials and an adventure packet in it. So like your first adventure and some pre-made characters you can run through. A lot of stuff like that coming up. But any sort of support, much appreciated. Even sharing it with your friends, running a game. Jump on our Discord, let us know how it went. Yeah, we'll see. I personally believe that there is a place in the world for a game like this that is not going to get thrown behind a paywall and charged a battle pass and a subscription fee and a licensing and blah, 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 because I hate all of that, and that seems to be the trend where things are going. So if you want to support me in making that gamble and not going broke and destitute in the process, that would be pretty great. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time.